So these are just phenomenal ways, and I haven't even talked about the Bible. This is science. Show me a better explanation for those things, and the only other explanations scientists have right now are still in flux and theoretical without any evidence for them. God's the best explanation for every one of those. God, if the universe is designed, which many scientists will agree with, that it appears to look like it's designed. If it's designed, it requires a designer.
Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Today. I'm Rick Probst. Hope you're having a great weekend. Well, we didn't have to twist his arm too much. He's back. Tom Griffin is an apologist. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's a podcaster. Listen, we heard from you. You love the show. You want to know more about apologetics. Hey, so do I. So we have an expert. We're going to talk to him in a second. Thank you for downloading our podcast. Tom being one of them. The last time we had him on the show, you guys went crazy. So thank you very much. I don't understand it, but we are getting numbers like crazy, the metrics, blah, blah, blah. Hey, this is an old guy talking, but I just want to say thank you for downloading the podcast. We appreciate you. Go to faithtalkatlanta.com or wherever you get your podcast. Tom, hey, welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back. It's a blessing. This is a passion and a calling that I have. Definitely God divined, and just can't get enough of this kind of conversation. I've now spent a significant amount of the last 20 some years kind of as a sideline, but a lot of effort and time. This is what I love to do.
Yeah, you can listen to some of Tom's stuff at podcast form. If you go to Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, you can also read his stuff. You can get it at Amazon. Resurgenceconsulting.com is a great place to go to. That is his website. I wanted to take this time without my fluff. I wanted to get you talking so we can get down to business because we only have a short amount of time. Last time that we had you on the show, we talked about some of the questions that folks ask that we've had ourselves. How do we know God's real? And you gave us a small, and I asked you to, a little small condensed version. Well, let's open that brain up and get a little more. How do we know? This is the question that we have. How do we know that God is real? What's the proof?
There are a lot of different ways to approach this. What I like to do is use science so that we don't have to worry about the people that want to say they don't believe the Bible. So from science, we don't even need to invoke the Bible to show that God is true. No, let me also mention one thing real quick. My writing and a gift that God has given me for communications, although a lot of my branding of materials is apologetics for tweens, it's written and designed for anybody. Just call it introductory apologetics. We have tons of adults that listen to the podcast and have read the materials as well. So how do we know God exists? From science, there are three, many more than this, but three primary evidences that the best explanation for, what caused these three things that I'm going to mention is God and the attributes that are associated with God. So I've mentioned before, one of my favorite authors and apologists and speakers is Stephen Meyer, and he wrote a book that covers the details on all these three things in a book called Return of the God Hypothesis. So let's start with the creation of the universe. Almost all scientists, not just Christians, but secular scientists, agree now that the universe had a beginning. A lot of them are fighting to try to find a different explanation. But if the universe had a beginning via Einstein and other mechanisms, we know that all time, space, matter, and energy were created in a single moment. So what caused that to happen? You have to answer the question, what caused that to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was no natural world, so it can't be a natural explanation. And whatever caused the universe to exist, time, matter, energy, space, had to be outside of those things and not composed of them. So it can't be a material cause, can't be any kind of energy, and it can't exist in time. It was actually outside of time. These are right away are core attributes of God. And it had to be incredibly powerful to create something out of nothing. There was no space. We're talking about nothing, not space. So the best explanation points to God. Scientists, secular ones, are still looking for other ways around that, but that is currently the best explanation. Now you can go from there to immediately to the creation of first life. According to Richard Dawkins, one of the atheists' favorite popular atheist experts, his best explanation for how first life was formed is a term that's been now called panspermia. And that is simply that life came from somewhere else in the universe and landed on the earth. So you might think of it as aliens. Of course, that doesn't solve the problem of what created it somewhere else. It's just an avoidance. So when you look at a living organism, every living cell contains something called DNA that everybody has heard about, probably don't know a lot about, but DNA is like a repository of information. One single strand of DNA in one single cell is the equivalent of about 3,000 volumes of encyclopedia information, not just random stuff, but a messaging. It tells the cell everything it needs to do in terms of reproduction, communication, network and error correcting capabilities. It's amazing. So how did that get there? How did something that is information in an incredible form and repository get there in the first cell? It couldn't have evolved. It only exists within the cell, nowhere else in nature. So, we know from science that information, a coded messaging, only comes from an intelligent source. Where's the intelligent source? It has to come from a mind. All information has come from a mind. Where's the mind? There's not a natural mind there. God is the best explanation for creating the repository of DNA that makes every cell function and put it in the very first cell. In fact, the cell membrane is created by proteins. Proteins get the messaging on how to create it from DNA, but DNA is made by proteins. You've got a circular problem. Nothing can evolve. They all had to exist simultaneously. So I think that's very, very powerful. There is not another best explanation for where first life came from. And, talking about evolution from there is a whole nother topic. And then the third one I would mention is the fine tuning of the universe. There are now identified over 900 different physical parameters that are so precisely ordered, sort of like the fine tuning of a piano. That's why we call it the fine tuning argument. So precisely ordered that if any of those 900 some parameters was only slightly different, you could not have life exist on Earth. It wouldn't have been created, or it couldn't continue to exist if any of them changed. We're talking about things as simple as the distance we are from the sun. If it took 9 minutes for a ray of light to get to the sun instead of 8 minutes and 32 seconds, we'd freeze to death and there wouldn't be any life. Or if it came faster, just by 20 or 30 seconds than it does now, we'd burn up. And it just goes on from there. Any one of these precise measurements, if it was different, no life. But we're saying that all of them have to exist and continue to exist exactly the way they are. The percentage of oxygen in our atmosphere is on average about 21%. But how many trees and forests have we killed making cities and then planted more trees? How can it be that it's all just balanced out so perfectly? If oxygen represented a higher percentage than it does, fires would burst out spontaneously. If it was slightly less, we'd suffocate. No life could exist. You can go on and on and on with these things. It's amazing. Even Stephen Hawking, who was a very powerful theoretical physicist died years ago, said that if the initial acceleration of the universe from the point of beginning had been even 1/1,000,000th of a percentage different, faster or slower, nothing would have been created.
Mm.
So these are just phenomenal ways. And I haven't even talked about the Bible. This is science. Show me a better explanation for those things. And the only other explanations scientists have right now are still in flux and theoretical without any evidence for them. God's the best explanation for every one of those. God, if the universe is designed, which many scientists will agree with, that it appears to look like it designed. If it's designed, it requires a designer. How does it get that way? All the physical parameters, what we would typically call the laws of nature, could have been entirely different than they are. There's nothing that requires them to be exactly the way they are. And it's all crazy that they are exactly what you need in order to support life on Earth.
Love that. Tom Griffin, apologist. Man, the time is gone. Tom, we got to do another show with you and dig into the Bible. Is this stuff good or what? Well, it is. And I want you to check it out. You can check it out in so many ways. He's not even scratched the surface. So resurgenceconsulting.com is Tom's website. You can check it out. Check out his material at Amazon and, of course, in the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I listen to my stuff on Spotify, but you don't have to go there. You can go wherever you get your podcast and check it out. He's got, and as he mentioned earlier, he's got apologetics for tweens. It's not just for tweens. It's for all of us. So check it out. Good stuff. Tom, promise me you'll come back. I got to get you back. We got to dig into the Bible. We got to find out more. This guy is pretty amazing, and what a huge heart. We love having him on the show. Tom Griffin, check out his stuff. Hey, thank you so much for checking out our podcast. Not only can you listen to this podcast again, you can listen to the first podcast we had, or the show with Tom. You can go to Faith Talk Today. You can go to our faithtalktoday.com, or actually faithtalkatlanta.com, or wherever you get your podcast. Well, let's do this. Have a great week, everybody. Next weekend, another amazing show. I'm Rick Probst. See ya.